Hello, everyone. This is Maritza, one who catches lightning, with the Path of Ish podcast, Walking with Our Shadow, where we share ancient indigenous teachings of remembrance, all so we can walk and learn how to walk a path of radical self-love.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of The Healing Adventures of Luna. Yeah, we're doing episode 3, baby.
Woo,
and
woo.
Today we have Maritza, the one that catches lightning. Did I say that correctly? Because my brain right now is like...
Yeah, one who catches lightning and keeper of the thunderstone. Yeah.
And we were talking about like earlier when I met you, it was just Maritza.
Yeah.
That was it.
Like Cher.
You can find them at Path of Ish. So Path of IX, because I know a lot of people want to spell that wrong. And then Cuatro Manos y Cinco Volcanes. Farms. What is the website on that one?
Yeah, it's www. It's long. Cuatro Manos y Cinco Volcanes Farms. Learn Spanish now.
But when I met you, because we met, it's been like 10 years? No, not that long yet, but almost.
No, it has.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We met through somebody in Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
And I was holding spaces for classes, but then you also started doing sweat lodge and ceremony up there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I met you, you hadn't none of cacao wasn't there yet. Like, it was just Maritza. I mean, but the medicine was there.
Yeah. That
was all there.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to ask you, because I don't think I've ever asked you this question. And I asked this to a lot of people, what was your pivotal point where your medicine was? And for those of you that don't understand, when I say medicine, I'm talking about like what some people call a spiritual awakening, what some people call connecting to their divine gifts, whatever that is for somebody. For me, it's your medicine.
Mm-hmm.
What was the pivotal point for you to be like, this is my medicine, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going forward?
Mine wasn't as much a spiritual awakening, because I was trained since I was born.
Yeah.
Mine was more a divorce that happened. Even though I've been on this path and I've been trained since I was young, there was a time that I did step away from this stuff, right? That I tried to actually be more mainstream, to have the colonized white people dream of, white wife, car, job, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So it was actually after that divorce, I got into a different relationship, and that relationship helped me get back on the path. They were Australian, and I went to Australia on a trip with them, and I went to see a healer who was like, gave me a few cachetadas, right? And so I was like,
chancla.
Okay, this gave me the Aussie chancla, which is a little different, but and when I got back, it was I started having some interesting conversations with this Native American that kept showing up. I'm like, who are you, bro? What's going on? And I was living in California at the time, and I wasn't as familiar with some. I mean, I knew Native Americans from, this side of the border to a certain degree, but I grew up, again, being trained with my people, you know, and in those ways, and south of the border. So a little bit different. And I studied them in school, and I knew some of them, but a lot of my training was more kind of a combination of that stuff in Jewish mysticism, you know, and curanderismo, right? So I wasn't as familiar. So I was like, who is this? Who is this? And so I looked it up, and I was like, I think this is Red Cloud. And I'm like, what do you want? You know, because, you know, I've been having conversations with people like this for a long time. So I'm not like, oh my God, you know, I'm just like, what do you want? You know, what's going on? ¿Qué quieres tú?
Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm doing something.
I'm trying to eat my tacos, man. You want some?
The native guides, though, are, for some reason, they're just so, like, they will stand right in front of you too.
Yeah.
They don't care.
And you're like, yeah, no caring. And so I was going to go up to Mount Shasta for the first time. And
like, you had never been there.
I'd never been there.
Okay.
And this person had been involved in was like, go up there. It's interesting. Go check it out. I was like, okay. And before I went, I put in a call to someone in the community up there. That's how I got connected. This is before you knew that person. And I had a conversation with them, and because I had set up to do some body work, and I said, hey, by the way, I'm this person's talking to me. He's like, who are you talking to? And I said, Red Cloud. He's like, tell me exactly what they look like and what they're saying. And I was like, okay. And I did. And he goes, and I get that, okay. And the phone hangs up on me. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then it calls back in like 3 or 5 minutes. Yeah, that is Red Cloud. I'm confirming that is my great grandfather, blah, 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 you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, you need to come immediately. When can you get here? You know, because I was going to see them like on a Sunday. It was like a Thursday. And I was like, Friday? Okay, good. Get up here, you know. And had a session with this person, and then they invited me to lodge for the first time. And on my way to lodge, I went to get water at the springs there at Mount Shasta. And I'm usually someone, or at that time, it doesn't happen, I was literally always like, I'm a little OCD. I've gotten better, like with my phone, you know, like what time is it? Because, you know, I have an interesting mind, forgets space and time and where I'm at. So like I have to be like, okay, if I have to be in this reality, I have to have a phone on me, you know. And I left it in the car, but I knew, and I'm really, really good at like keeping track of time. My mind isn't, but my body is, you know, like I have 5 minutes to do this. It will take me 5 minutes to get from my car, get the water, and come back, and we go. And so that being said, I did not take my phone out, and instead I decided to just go and get the water. So I was invited to go to lodge, and so I went to get the spring waters, and I knew I had like 5 minutes to do it. And I was like, you know, no dawdling, didn't take my phone with me, and I go to collect spring water, and this man stops me and starts talking to me. And I know that conversation probably took an hour, if not more. This conversation that this person was having with me. And I got back into my car being like, I missed it. I missed lodge. And literally no time had passed. I still had the 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, wow. What is happening? As I look back, you know, and one of the things that this person said to me, they said, look, go to this. They're like, all lights are green from you. This is what's happening. He had told me like of his 5 million deaths and his, like everything. He's like, go find this book. It's in this. And he didn't even, I think he gave me the title, but I forgot, you know, and he goes, go to this. You'll find it in town. It has a green cover and stuff like that. So I go to lodge. I was like, oh, wow, this is the mezcal. Okay, totally understand this. Love it. Felt at home. Went into town to pick up this book, and I was just intuitively going, right? Go to the, there's two bookstores there. Go to the one on the left, on the right. Go to the one on the right. So I went to the one on the right, and I entered, and I didn't even say anything to the lady, and I just looked at them, and they said, oh, it's in the back on the shelf. And I go in the back, and it's not that book, and I come out, and they said, we still haven't spoken. And they looked, and then they finally said, they spoke out. They're like, oh, you have to be clear in your communication. That was the first word they said to me. It's here on this shelf. And I go, and it was right there.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, black, green book, purple writing. All of the stories of this guy wrote in Mount Shasta with Saint Germain.
And yes. I think I might know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, this book came up. I can't believe I can't remember the name. Something mystery.
Do you still have the book?
Yeah, I still have it. Where is it? It's probably in here. I'll find it. Anyways, I'm reading the book, and I wasn't working at the time. That's why I had time to go out to Mount Shasta. I'd been fired, from a restaurant job. And so I was just painting and meditating and doing yoga and doing Bikram yoga, like back to back. I was in amazing shape. And I didn't have a car at the time. Someone else was using it. So for me to get to the Bikram class, it was like an hour on the bus, hour and a half on the bus. And I was like, whatever, I got time. So I take the book with me. I actually forgot the book, and I knew I had to take the book with me on the bus. And I hate going back for things, but I went back for it. And then on the way back, I usually keep, the titles to myself so people don't know what I'm reading. And for some reason, I hadn't. And the bus is packed, and all of a sudden tons of people get out, and like it opens up. And then this guy says to me, this, Mexican guy, he's like, oh, I'll tell you. Oh, unveiled mysteries. He goes, I'll tell you what the mystery is. And he comes up to me, and he starts talking to me. Again, I missed my bus stop, right? And he tells me all of these things about these monks who meditated and they moved rocks, and how they saw, a manifestation of the brown Jesus, right? As we were talking about earlier, and just all of this stuff, yes. Right? What is going on? And I get off the bus, again, annoyed that I missed my thing, and I walk back, and I find out he's a carpenter. A Mexican carpenter. What is happening in my life? And between that and Red Cloud continuing to talk to me and finding out our connection through some people, what that meant, past life and all that stuff, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to shake this time. There's no escaping. And so
when all that happens.
When all that happens, right? And so, I've always been taught, learn the medicine of the place that you're in. And so I was in California. So that's when I started working with the Karuk elder and the Lakota tribe there. And I sat with them for, 8 years. It took me, and so I started training and learning from there, and kind of started blending things in and started weaving. And then I started working with someone else, and it just got to the point, where they were like, you've been studying for how many years? Like, go do something with it. You can't just keep it for yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to do this. And I started doing it, but I didn't know how. I tried to do it too old school, and people didn't understand what I was doing, because we just do things a little differently. But
we do.
But yeah, that was the beginning. And the first name I got, because we were talking, was at Mount Shasta when we were up there on Vision Quest, which I knew they were going to forget me And they totally did, even though I got my vision pretty quickly. They left me up there for even more. And I was like,
wait a minute, they forgot to bring you down? Because I wasn't there at your vision quest. I think that I remember, because I remember like that you were up there, but I was not helping that vision quest.
Yeah, you weren't there. No, our good friend was there, but they were down in the lodge. So I knew, I had a feeling that they were gonna forget me. They didn't forget me. They waited till the last day, but I got my vision like the second day or something like that. So I put my little flag, like, I'm ready to come down. Nope. They decided not to check that day, or they forgot or something like that. And I was like, Madre de Dios, you know? And it was crazy. Like, there was snow, sleet, like there was so much going on. Like, at the end, I was just like wrapped like a little burrito, and like just like trying to.
And for those that don't know what Vision Quest is, Vision Quest is basically, it is a Lakota tradition. But I mean, a lot of different tribes have this tradition. They just do it in a different way, where they say you're like crying for a vision.
Yeah.
It is that time where you get to be, it's you and Creator, and you and Great Mystery. And that time is for you to ask for questions and a vision for yourself and for your path. That is the you time. Because when you Sundance, that is, when I Sundance, that's my suffering for the people. But when I vision quested, that was my time with me and Creator. So this was your first time vision questing when that happened?
Yeah, first time vision questing. And so I got several visions.
I didn't know that. See, when I did it though, because the first time I did in the sweat lodge for like 27 hours. But like I've put people up on the hill and brought them down, but I don't ever remember them saying you can flag yourself out if you get your vision. That's new to me.
Well, they were doing it that year. They had a lot of people up on that mountain.
Yeah.
On the hill. So that's what they had given. Because they were checking on us because a snowstorm came and a hailstorm. So they were like,
I do remember that.
Yeah. So but that day they didn't check on us,
at all.
So no.
Not once?
Nope.
Oh my God. They're supposed to go in the morning and at night.
So, yeah, something happened, miscommunications, whatever. Drama in the camp, I don't know. And so I was like, whatever. I'll keep having visions, I guess, but it was meant for a reason,
Yeah.
And so I came down, and part of what vision in the mountain gave me was one who catches lightning. So then I went to walking. And I was like, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, oh, yes, you are one who catches lightning. Hey, everyone, this one's the one who catches lightning now. And that was my formal naming ceremony happening at the end of the initiation. As they're like, can you please brush your teeth and then talk to me,
And for those of you who also don't know, because I always get this question, there is no substances used in ceremony. Nope. Absolutely
none.
No
water. No food, no water.
Yeah. No food, no water. There is no substances, nothing. So when you're getting your vision, it is literally you haven't eaten, you have nothing in your system, and it's just you and spirit.
Yep.
And nature and whatever comes around there, because sometimes that happens. And actually that was gonna be my question too. So it's funny too, because I ended up getting my name when I fire tended, the first time I fire tended at a vision quest.
Mm-hmm.
But it might have been that same year, maybe the year after that. And it's so weird how they just like the name just comes. You just never know. And one day it's like, bam, here you go. But like, I know when you vision quested, because you told me this and we've talked about, I had my run-in with Bigfoot at Vision Quest. My first run-in with Bigfoot. And so did you, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Did you see them? Did you hear them? Or what happened?
No, so I'm pretty good. Like, I hate losing things, and I'm pretty good, even if you step into a room that I'm like doing a project and it looks like chaos. Like, I know where everything is. That's,
Right.
and I had gloves, right? I get really cold hands. My circulation isn't good, so I run kind of cold. So me being up there for a snowstorm was not fun.
Were you
And
even prepared? Did you have the clothing for that?
I had, thankfully, Rose, my wife had, she used to work at Sports Basement.
Uh-huh.
And so she has they give them like a lifelong discount. So before I had nothing. So we went in there and like got stuff, and I got like jackets, and like I went just like fully clothed, ready for everything, because it was still really early. I went to the early one, not the later one that's like hot one. So I went to the cold one. Which makes sense, right? And so I had gloves. And I woke up one day and I knew something had been around my camp. Like, you could just feel it. You could see there was disturbance, and if I tap into that time and look back, it was probably really like Bigfoot, like helping me not die up there. And because I wasn't used to condition, even though I spent some time in a very cool place in the world called Michigan, the land of the lakes.
Oh my God, that is cold up there.
Yeah, I don't like it. I never have. And even now that I'm fortunate to live in Hawaii, anything like below 70, I have a jacket on, right? And then if it gets too hot, I'm dying. So my tolerance level is between 6 degrees of what I enjoy, but that's okay. I can be high maintenance, but, so anyways, as I'm coming down the mountain and I'm collecting everything, and I'm like, I'm missing my gloves. I keep looking and looking and looking and looking. And I was like, Bigfoot took them. Totally. And I was like, why would, and I was annoyed at the beginning, right? I mean, I'm starving, I get hangry, and I'm like, why'd you take my gloves, man? You have big feet. Do you have small hands? Like, what's going on? And there's little people up there too. And so someone was like, maybe it was the little people. I was like, no, it was Bigfoot. It was totally Bigfoot. And they did, and they took it as an offering, I mean, they helped me survive and get through, and probably provided a shield so I wasn't, get too rained down and stuff like that. Cause I was literally just like in a tarp. It came down to, I was like burrito tarp, trying to survive the elements. In the beginning, it was a nice little like glamp tent that I created with my little tarp. And at the end, it was literally, I was just like a burrito in the dirt, which makes sense, right? Rebirth. So yeah, took my gloves, and I've always giggled at that, but at the same time, it's what an amazing help I got,
Yeah.
And I think now I'm getting really emotional. I haven't really thought about this, but it's like, what an amazing being to be in relationship, right? I mean, big feet leaves big tracks, and we sometimes need that. And we need, when we're going into the unknown, when we're afraid of making tracks, right? One of the reasons, right, that we dress in certain ways that we dress, right, with either moccasins or sandals that have tassels, is to erase our tracks so that people don't find us, so they don't kill us.
Right.
And you can't unsee a Bigfoot, right? You can't unsee the presence, and I did smell, or unsmell, and that was
the
another
smell
thing.
is awful. It's awful. It is an awful smell. It is like caca and wet dog put together. Ugh.
Yeah. And so it's almost like here's this unseen that supposedly exists, that doesn't exist, that not everyone sees. But once you see it, you've always changed. And so I think part of the medicine that Bigfoot was trying to give me, and it's taken me this long to even think about it or for it to drop in, because slow medicine takes time. Is it's okay. You're going to be okay. You can leave big tracks so that the right people will find you. You can reveal yourself to those who are ready, but you can also be a myth, not be seen. And I think there's great medicine for that, especially for everyone, as they still call us kids, but we're elders now in some of our circles and wisdom keepers that we need, because we're in these times where, as my teacher says, we're fashionable again. Being Native American is fashionable.
But that's an interesting point. I not thought of it that way.
But as everything that is fashionable for a season, it will be out of fashion. Right? We were in fashion in the 60s and a little bit in the 70s, and out of fashion and fashion again. So, it puts us in a precarious place. And I don't think a lot of people really understand this. And I try to have this conversation with people. I created Way of the Feather that I had someone send me a 2-page email about how I was not in circleness, and because they just wanted to be some drum circle, or I don't know. And I was like, you didn't even get to the circle. We were just laying out the rules that no one tells you, because
they sent you a 2-page email telling you that.
So Way of the Feather is this thing that I created online. It's the first Think If It class that I did. And it takes you through like what you're stepping into. Right. And actually reveals to you, right? Because when you go into circles, like they don't tell you anything. I don't know why people think that there's a lot of, like, they don't tell you anything. You have to ask a lot. You have to figure it out as you go. It takes years to figure out protocols. You get it wrong a lot. So
it's not a weekend thing.
It's not a weekend thing, right? And so one of the things that I said, I was like, these are the unexpected rules of entering in and center. And I wrote it out, or just so you know, this is the culture that you're this is a different culture. If you feel unease, it's a different culture. If you think you got it, you're wrong. And we're going to use words that sound familiar to you, but they mean something completely different to us.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that, right? Which is fine. And other people have like, oh my God, this is amazing. Everyone has to take this class. But that's the thing. One of the things that I say in that, and that I tell people, is like, you are asking marginalized people whose language, whose practices were outlawed till the 70s, and some language till the 80s, to speak a language and to do their practices. They could go to jail. And not even threat of jail, sometimes, depending on where you were living, threat of death.
Yep.
And to this day, Indigenous people are being killed for their practices, for their quote unquote ways of being in relationship to land, whether they're earth keepers, whether they're guardians of cacao, or they're guardians of other medicine. They're being killed. And so what you're doing is you're asking to come into our circles. And you're the colonizer. Yeah. And you're the one who, if you decided you don't like us, you could kill us. That's our fear. When I have, and people don't know, when I have some white people come in, I'm like, you could kill me. You could kill me.
It's nerve-wracking because you never know what they're going to do. Because it's sacred medicine. It's like for us, like, I have things that have been passed down from my abuelita and from other elders, since I was a kid. But it can take one person to be like, this is weird. And because I think it's weird, it's wrong to completely turn a whole community or thousands of people against you because of ignorance.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's frightening. It's actually frightening. You're putting us in this position where you want to learn and want to learn all the deep things, which you have to earn. You're not ready.
Right.
And then your frustration or your anger, or because you haven't been taught how to deal with your emotions, or you think your emotions are your intuition, which it just means you're just working from a colonized mind frame. You're a threat every time you come in. And yet I have been told to teach you. And I've been told to have faith, to have discernment, right? But to also have faith. And so I think Bigfoot for that. I think Bigfoot for that.
I feel like Bigfoot really chooses who they show themselves to, because they don't just show themselves to anybody for the fact, like, you know, there's that show, like, you know, Finding Sasquatch, whatever. And people really, really try. But the problem is that Bigfoot, they're intelligent beings and they're intuitive beings and they're keepers of this earth, along with the fairies, along with the little people. That's why there's that connection to Mount Shasta. But they also can understand those that walk in medicine and walk in their heart.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I think we're in a time where we're being supported, and that's why there's more of these sightings to remind us, like, we're here. Like, they're saying, we're here and we're supporting you and we're protecting you. Like, keep going.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I want to go back to something because you made a really important point, and I really want to, I think there's something else here in the sense of, like, you talked about being Native American and being indigenous is fashionable.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a time right now where healing is in that space where people want the fast food service, is what I call it. Yeah. They want everything here now, and I want the knowledge now.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I've been questioning and wondering, and you made a really good point about, yes, this is fashionable. How do we shift to where, one, we feel safe teaching, these important teachings that have been with us all our lives. Yeah. But not only that, but for people to understand that this is not a fashion statement. This is not a trend. This is a way of life. Because when the fashion, part of this is done and this is not cool anymore, we don't get to take our skin off to say, okay, we're done with this too. We will always be indigenous. We will always be Latino. Like, that's never going to go away for us. But there are people that can sit there and be like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, and take that hat off. We don't get to do that.
Yeah. I think, or what I've experienced, or what the path has revealed to me is, like, in the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be attached to, number one, being understood.
Yeah.
And being valued, because you're asking to be valued by a colonialist, consumerist culture that will continue to destroy and wants to destroy indigenous teachings if they can't make money off of it. Right? So one of the things is you have to just be like, you just gotta have to be yourself. And I think the fear of it, or the fear of being that, is also part of the medicine, because you have to choose. And I think that's actually grace that we don't get to fit in, is actually an amazing boon that we have that other people don't, because they'll look and they'll talk and they'll act and they'll fit in. So they will never be challenged, and they will never get out of the system. And we can never be part of it. And that will save us in the end, because we will never allow ourselves to be disconnected to the fact that we are creatures of Mother Earth, no greater or lesser, no matter the color of our skin. We don't really even care. But the central part is we belong to something that will outlast humans and civilizations and cultures.
We have an identity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so whether we're in fashion or not, we just continue to be. And I think that's why indigenous, Latinx, and all the other minorities are resilient communities, because there's something we always know: we don't belong. They've made it very clear.
Right. Yes.
Very clear. I mean, and I don't think people understand until you walk in our shoes really what our daily lives are like and how we don't belong and how many times we're told we don't. How many times we're not allowed certain things. How many times we're checked on. If we're walking past someone, they check their wallet. It's probably because they know I'm from Mexico City. I'm just kidding. Are they? Or
I still get followed around in stores.
Yeah, followed in stores.
At 41.
Yeah. Checked when you enter into a store, checked when you get on a bus, checked double pat down in a getting on a plane, the everyday things that we live tell us we don't belong. There's no and you can lie to yourself and be like, oh, this is normal to a certain degree. It's not.
It's not normal at all.
It's normal for us, but it doesn't have to be normal, right? Not everyone has to do this. And so I think that, just keeping to who you are is the strongest medicine. And that's what we're trying to teach people, though.
Right.
We're trying to teach people not to be us. Find your own stories, find your own people. If you're making me jump through loops, proving to you that I'm indigenous, proving to you.
Oh God, I seriously want to pull my hair out when that happens. I'm like, really? Or when people will send, oh, you should take this class, and it's taught by a non-indigenous person. I'm like, no, get that away from me. You're giving me a beginner's class, which I've already grown up in these teachings, by someone who's not been doing this their whole life. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's not the same,
It isn't.
It isn't. And I think, I have students from all walks of life, and some that are stepping into, certain medicine, but I'm very honest with some of them, and I'll be like, you are asking for a harder path.
Yeah.
Because culturally, you have to do more work. Mm-hmm. You have to do more work. You have to decolonize. That means you have to go back through your timeline in history, all the way back to, the Roman times, or even before that, to have connection. We don't have to do that.
No. We
don't have to go that far in history. And so our wounds are fresher, but so is our medicine. That's why our medicine are stronger, is because our wounds are fresher, because we haven't forgotten.
But the medicine's never gone away.
And the medicine, no, we just hid it.
It's always been there. But here's the thing, too, is that, so, and if I were to come back and I would have to choose again to be Latina in this lifetime, I would, because of what it feels like to be in a culture, what it feels like to walk in the medicine and have that identity. But I think now we're seeing the colonizer having an identity crisis.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. And it's kind of like watching, for me, kids having a tantrum, and I get that, because it's like they haven't had a footing yet. But then again, they are going to have to go a lot farther back to find their roots.
Yep.
Because their roots were taken, I don't know that part of history, but obviously their roots were taken away from the earth a long time ago.
Yep.
And it's going to take a really long time for that decolonization and deconstruction of all of that to be rerouted again.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't really realize that until this conversation today.
No, it's a longer path, it's a longer path. And I think once you have that conversation and also say, part of that path is you're going to have to grieve. And I think that's hard for people because they don't even know the wound that they're grieving because it happened so long ago and it's so entrenched in them that it comes up as other things, as tantrums, or it comes up as I need to know, or it comes up as perfectionism. Perfectionism is a wound of colonization.
Yep.
Because it's about value. So it manifests in these weird things, right? But I like getting to the root of thing. I've been trained as you just get in there. This is what's happening. And what I have found, it's that they don't. Number one, they've never been to grieve. They don't have a way or method of grieving, right? I was even talking to one of my students, and they said, I literally just went to a funeral. And the priest was saying, this is not a time for grieving. Don't grieve. This is a time for, we get over this and we rejoice. And and they're like, no, I need to grieve. Don't gaslight me. Don't tell me not to do a step in this, right? There's multiple steps of grief. And I think, Mother Nature has been trying to teach us how to grieve.
Yeah.
Grief is kept in the lungs. In the lungs. What happened to the world?
Yep.
Where were we magically, given a chancla,
In the lungs.
To sit down in the lungs, right? Everything that's happening, the way that COVID and all viruses are attacking is in the lungs. We're weak. Humanity is weak in the lungs.
Because there's
right?
that's the thing, in the Mexican culture, we have an understanding around grief. We have Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and where we honor, our ancestors and we honor our loved ones. But that, in the sense of society, has been lost here. And people don't have a relationship to grief anymore. They just have a relationship to someone telling them, no, you shouldn't be crying, or no, you shouldn't be feeling that way. So you just need to move on and forget about it. But that stays in the body.
Yeah.
All that stays in the body. And at some point that needed to come out. So yeah, I do think that the last, oh my God, 3 years have been a purging of undealt grief and things like that. But in the, at looking at all of that, the world's going through a massive shift.
Yep.
And it's really, it's interesting to watch the different pockets of society going through what they're going through. And actually, and I feel like, and we haven't talked about this yet, but with cacao and your teachings with cacao, I feel are a very potent medicine when it comes to the root of getting to the root of what is happening. Because cacao has chanclas, man. It's chanclazos.
I know, and it's funny because people, don't, depending on where they are, right? Different parts of the world are on their journeys with cacao being kind of new or not. And a lot of people dismiss it and want to go, I want the heavier stuff, I want the aya and I want all this stuff. And it's like, each medicine is here to teach us different things. And if
Yeah.
you're going to a medicine because you want a result, that means you get to be displaced from your reality because you don't even know how to deal with it. Then be aware that all your coping mechanisms to escape your reality, you're just changing it. You're going from, cocaine to hape, you're going from whatever else you were doing to Aya. And so if you don't change the habit, if you don't look at the habit of why you're going to these things, then you're not really addressing. And so when everyone, I do a lot of meditations, people are like, oh, what are we going to take? I'm like, nothing. Be with yourself.
What do you mean? They ask you, what are you going to take? Like,
well, they'll ask, oh, is this going to be a medication? Hilarious. Meditation with, are we going to take something, a substance? I say, no, we can just meditate. We can have you can do a shamanic journey and not take anything,
it just mind boggles me that people think that you always need to be on something. And I'm just like, I mean, I've done Aya twice. I've done, Wachuma, but, and I've done mushrooms, but all of those things I've done in a space of ceremony and understanding that I'm going to the root of my issue. Anytime anyone's ever done ceremony with me, if you don't want to get to the root of your issue, do not do medicine with a medicine person in ceremony.
Yeah.
Because it was like having an exorcism. Like everybody, like all that's why I'm like, I don't understand how people do ayahuasca like every weekend or like every other weekend. Cause I'm like, I could not. That's not the point of those medicines. And that energy in that medicine is being misused and being misunderstood. Because I'm half South American, so Aya is part of my lineage.
Yep.
When Aya came to me, I knew, and I went, oh, caca. But the same thing happened with me with cacao. When cacao showed up, cacao was like, here you go. And that, when did you start selling cacao again? It was like
3 years ago.
No, it was longer than that, I think.
4 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah, because when that happened, I knew, and I bought, I think pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep.
And I knew this is it. I need to sit with this. And it's been some of the most powerful medicine I've ever sat with. And no, it does not take you out of your body or anything like that. Because it roots you into who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I always love talking about cacao is like, the people don't know where it comes from. It comes from a tree, and the la fruta doesn't grow on branches. It grows on the trunk. So it keeps you close. It keeps you embodied.
Yeah.
It keeps you in this this plane so that you can see the above and the below, because it has that relationship. It stays close to that. And I think the amazing thing of the cacao that we have at Cuatro Manos y Cinco Volcanes is we're really the only ones doing this. We're the only ones doing, single farm. We're the only ones that are doing ceremonial cacao that have lineage and have permission. And really what we're trying to do, this is the only cacao that has never seen slavery. If you've been to South America, if you're doing stuff in Peru, it's seen slavery. And even though it's free trade, it's not free trade. They're still not making more than like $2 to $5 a day. And one of the reasons we don't, it's so funny. I wanted to start doing chocolate, and I was like, I want to be a Willy Wonka. And then the island threw a chancla, and sugarcane just like hit me on the head. And like when I was a kid with piñatas and the sugarcane would hit you, and they're like, what are you doing? You're sitting with a medicine that is slave free, and we've told you that it is the medicine that's going to help people in this transition of what humanity's going through. And now you want to involve sugarcane and sugar that has been enslaved even longer and is still enslaved, and no one's talking about that? No, you are
Yeah.
not allowed. You cannot even consider or even bring this to our attention for a minimum of 3 years. And I'm like, I want to be willing. Cállate. But but what about, no? But no, please. I mean, there's parts of me that's still like, but what? No. Let it go. Let it go. Because
that's the thing about cacao too.
Yeah.
So what is the direction now with cacao and where the energies of the earth are going?
You know what we're trying to, what we're getting ready.
Yeah.
We're getting ready. We're getting ready. What I've been shown is that, and we're trying to create conversations that are extend a longer piece of the bridge to people. So I started working with my sister, and we have these Dr. Paula indigenous recetas, right? And again, we do them differently. We're not like, oh, this is cool, we would just want to put this together. Like, we've sat with this medicine for lifetimes, so we're trying to find ways to reach more people, but to get the message clear. And I think the more that you stand in your medicine, the people who are ready will come. And I think that's a hard lesson, because, we all got to pay bills, we all got to do things. And there is this, when you get out there and you're trying to get your message out there, there's so much inundation that it's easy to be like, oh, I have to do it this way or that way to get it there, or I have to do it this way, that way. And then you find yourself compromising yourself. And so I feel like we've been on this path this year, Rose and myself, of just like really getting back to the message and the vibration, and getting back and making sure that our relationship is deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, I'm going through initiation right now, trying to plant a cacao field. I thought it was supposed to be done 3 months ago. No, not done yet. No.
Wait,
cacao
you're
trees.
planting a whole field?
Yep. We already have cacao on the ground. It's not doing well, so we're going to move it. But we're planting a field. We have 2 fields that we're planning on planting. We grow it from seed as well.
Oh, okay.
So our whole relationship is truly from seed to tree to cacao. So it's a deep relationship. It's so for us, that's what we've been doing, is just deepening our relationships. If we want to give more, right, or be available to more, we have to deepen.
Yeah.
We have to become more serious. We have to let go of, Willy Wonka dreams. And I think people don't understand that, because again, I saw your post about manifestation and stuff like that. It's like people just want more and more and more. You can't have more and more. You want, when people ask me, how do I be you? I'm like, number one, you never will be. And that's okay. You be you. But this path means it gets narrower and narrower.
Oh, yeah.
Because what it's teaching you is stop trying to be everything to everyone.
Yep.
Your strength is when you stay in your place. Be in your place. Have your roots grow as deep as possible. Your branches as tall. Stay in your place. And the trees can teach us that.
They really
There's
can.
an amazing thing about being in your place. Doesn't mean you're missing out on anything. It means you actually get to grow and be all that you can truly be. Not what desires have been floating in around that you don't know how to communicate with, because you have been taught that your impulses and your ¿cómo se dice tus? Your impulses are your energy reads, or your impulses or your habits are your addictions are spirit. And so what are we preparing for? Deeper relationship.
Yeah.
deeper relationship. You know, I've got a lot of stuff going on in Australia. We launched an incredible ceremony, and I've been teaching, you know, Ash and Vesna and Mish to continue doing that. So I'm developing stuff in person in Australia, where Australia has decided to really embrace this stuff. And so I'm going to where the people want it. Why try to keep giving it to people who are not ready for it?
Yeah.
Go to where people want the medicine. And then it will come back, maybe. You know, as they always say, a prophet's never welcomed in their own home, because you're just Marita to them. Not one who catches lightning and keeper of the thunderstorm. You know?
But it's like the medicine knows where it needs to be, and it calls where it needs to go, and it's interesting how it has that dance, and eventually it does come back.
Yep.
You know, and you just know that calling. But and if you haven't tried the cacao from Cuatro Manos Cinco Volcanes, it's just
different.
It's different, but it's like just the quality of it, but also working with it. It's you know, because it works with the medicine of Hawaii, like, and Pele. And for me, it reminds me a little bit of Kali too.
Yep.
And then the abuelas, like, you know, hold on to your calzones, because it is powerful medicine.
And, you know, the thing is, change is inevitable.
It is.
And there's so many people who want to expand but don't want to change, or don't want things to change. They want to control everything. And I think we're at that point where literally not just a line in the sand. Mother Earth, I don't know if you know about this, literally there is, I was reading about it a little bit. In Kenya, supposedly a guy woke up and like there's that Africa, the continent, is starting to divide. It might happen in our life. Yeah. So there's a lot of work happening, like Pele, like the earth is shifting, the plates are shifting. All of the creation stories of almost every indigenous person that I've talked to in some way has a snake as part of their creation story, and snakes shed skin and they change and they grow and evolve.
Yep.
We're supposed to. That is, if you want to, any program, right? What's the program? What are you supposed to do? What is your path? You're supposed to go grow, change, and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
You're never supposed to stay the same.
You're not.
That is not why you're here. What are you here to learn? Grow, change, and evolve. What does that mean? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get it wrong. You know, you're going to try to be other people to the point that you feel comfortable enough to be you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we do at the Path of Ish. That's the path of radical self-love. That's what you do as well as teachers out there who are really trying to get people, be you. That path of radical self-love is radical because the world is telling you you're not enough. You won't ever be enough. So why are you still trying to fit in?
Right.
Find your path. Find your medicine. Be the medicine.
I love that, because I think it's such an important aspect of like finding your identity and who you are in this world, and knowing that everyone's not going to accept you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And when you do the work, I can tell you from someone who has been so insecure in their life, when I really started doing the work, I got to the point where I just don't give a shit. That's how good I am with myself. And it's interesting, the love that you find for yourself, even on your shitty days. Now I'm like, I just don't care. Because I feel good with my medicine. And if you don't accept that, oh well. It's one less person for me to deal with.
And what a gift that is, right? What a gift that is.
It is. It feels good.
Yeah, it's an amazing gift.
So as we wrap up here today, because I know I could talk to you about stuff all day. And you will be back. I know this.
I know. And you'll come on to mine. You're going to have to come on to mine. So we got to schedule for that.
Yes. But what would you want to... I don't know. I just feel like... what is something I feel like Abuela Cacao is not done talking about something, and I'm like, what would be the message that you would want to end with today on that?
Well, I think also Bigfoot is not done. So if we combine cacao and Bigfoot, what an amazing combination. I know you and I have been talking about this.
Yes,
right?
I've been telling you this for how long now? 2 years?
I know.
I said, can we please make cacao with Bigfoot?
Yeah, let's do it. So I think if you sit down with both of them, and as they've been so present in this episode, in this podcast, thank you so much for joining the Circle Cacao and Bigfoot. I think the lesson is don't be afraid to be you, to leave a trace, to be yourself truly. And a cacao gives us that courage, to really live from that heart center. They say the journey from the head to the heart is 1,000,000 miles, right? And so cacao helps us. And what better footsteps to walk in than Bigfoot.
Yeah. Grande patas.
Yeah. So if we had to sum it up in a Hallmark thing, it's like, instead of that, the Jesus walking, the footsteps and the thing be like Bigfoot and cacao. They'd be like, we've been freaking taking you this whole time, ¿Qué te pasa? Toma tu cacao and follow the Bigfoot. What is wrong?
Now I have the image of baby chocolate Jesus with some Bigfoot in the desert.
Baby chocolate cacao Jesus, Jesucito.
I want to thank you for being here today and for coming on the Healing Adventures of Luna. And definitely you got to come back. And everybody, you can find Marita at the Path of Ish, the Path of IX.com, correct? And then Cuatro Manos y Cinco Volcanes Farms website. And so .com on that one. Is there another website that I'm forgetting?
That's fine. Those are the two main ones, and you can find from there. You can find me.
You can find them on Instagram too, and TikTok, and there's a lot of teachings on there. But thank you everyone for listening today, and we will see you next time. See everybody later. Peace out.
Once again, it is with deepest gratitude that I bow to you for joining me on this podcast, this episode, this circle, this plática, this meditation, this remembering. I hope that you have stayed curious. I hope to see you in the circle again next week. So make sure that you like or follow. Until then, may you be blessed with abundance of peace and radical self-love.